Hi, it's time for another math easy solution. We're going to discuss further into applications of integrals and look further into the economics video series and look at example 1 of the consumer surplus video series that I introduced in my last video. Basically went over the definition and formulation for consumer surplus. So now let's look at this example, which states the demand for a product in dollars is given by this function p equals 1200 minus 0.2 times x minus 0.0001 times x squared, and then the question states find the consumer surplus when the sales level is 500, or basically when the number of sales is 500, or x equals to 500. So the consumer surplus, like I showed before, well, first thing to do, let's just graph this out. So again, the demand curve usually looks like this. So when x is 0, when you have 0 sales, that's at a price of p right here. This is price per unit. I'll go dollars per unit. And the x is number of units right here. Those units. So when you have 0 sales, that's associated with when just plug in x is 0, you get 1200. So that means when you set the price at 1200, you expect 0 sales. So this is a point here, and this is all it's a minus. It's a quadratic, so it's a quadratic function. So it curves down like this. That's how it will look like. Yeah, because you have a minus there the whole time. So this is our demand curve p of x, like that, which is just our function p right there. So it's saying what is the consumer surplus. So if the sales level is 500, or the number of sales is 500, let's draw it somewhere like this. So if this is x equals to 500, then like I showed before, if all of these people were to buy it at $500, basically this would be the total cost, or the actual cost. This is price P. So this is all right. Capital P equals 2 OP of 500. So that's this part right here. This is the actual cost to consumers, like I explained before in my earlier video. Actual cost to consumers. And then this part right here, because again, these prices, if it was, let's say, over here, somewhere here, these you would still get X amount of sales. You would get this number of sales up to here. So these people are willing to pay higher. So the overall area right here, I'll draw it like different line like that. This is the total savings, or the consumer surplus, like I explained in my last video. So make sure to watch that. Surplus. So this whole top part above is the consumer surplus. So everything, the whole shaded area, and like I showed before, that formula is basically just the area under the curve, like there. So the consumer surplus, I'll just put C dot S for short, is equal to the integral, in this case from 0 to x is 500, and then it's from, well, it's from the curve, the demand curve, minus the line P equals P of 500 right there. So line P dx. So right now all we gotta do is solve for, well, what P is, and then plug in our function inside here and then integrate it. So our P is equal to, well, just the price at 500 units, at when we expect to sell 500 units. Plug that in there. So just plug that into the function. $1,200 minus 0.2 times 500, and then this is going to be a minus 0.001. So 3 zeros, 1, 2, 3 x times this is x squared. So this is 500 squared. So you can plug this in a calculator, or just to go over some algebra right here, just to recall how to solve this using basic algebra. Let's just solve this by hand, just for the fun of it. So this 0.2, that's same as writing 2 over 10, or 1 over 5 times 500. So we can cancel this right here and get a 100 like that. So that becomes a 100. minus right here. What I'm going to do is write this as basically a fraction. So if we move this here 1, 2, 3, 4, this corresponds to a 1 over and then 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 decimal places. And to get a better idea of that is if we were to look at, let's say, 1 over 10, this equals to basically, well, the 0.1. So this was shifted 1 decimal place to the left here, and that's 1 decimal place corresponds to 1 0. Let's do that. So this is 1, and this has 1 0. And this has 4, so you just do 4 times, there's 4 zeros. This is a quick way of doing that. And now this 500 is the same thing as writing 500 squared. Same thing as writing 500 times 500. So since there's 4 zeros, these all cancel, this cancels, just left with 1 over 1, and 5 times 5. So let's put this in bracket like that. So right here, this equals to 1200 minus, well, 100. 500 divided by 5 is 100. And here's 5 times 5, which is, well, 25. And then because all the zeros are canceled. So we're just left with, this is 1100 minus 25, or the final capital P right here. The selling price to get 500 sales is basically the price we set it at. This is going to be 1075, and it's in dollars. Okay, so this is our P value. So we can plug that inside there. So our consumer surplus now is equal to, this is 0 to 500, P of X minus, this is going to be 1075, D of X, and now we could just plug in the function, which is going to be 0, 500, this is going to be 1200 minus 0.2x minus minus 3 zeros x squared, and then minus the P, which is 1075. D of X like that. Like this meter. Okay, so now we'll just subtract these 1200 minus 1075. That's just, well, 125. Subtract that. This is 125. Just minus 0.2x. This is simplified further before we integrate. D of X. Now this equals 2. Just integrate this. This is 125x minus 0.2x squared over 2. And this is going to be 1, 2, 3 like that times x cubed over 3. And you're integrating this one all from 0 to 500. So when we evaluate this, we get 125 times 500 minus 0.2 divided by 2, that just becomes 0.1. This cancels like that. Times it by, just put the 500 inside, minus, and this is squared, 001. This is going to be 5 cubed over 3, and then, well, when you have to subtract when you put in 0, but that just goes to 0. So we could plug this into the calculator. And here I've just plugged it into the Google calculator, just search it. So here 100 times 500 minus 0.1 times 500 squared minus 0.0001 times 500 cubed divided by 3, just because I didn't want to solve this one by algebra by hand. So we get 33,333.33, and keeps going on and on. So what we'll do is just round that up and get finally basically consumer surplus. Let's write this meter. Surplus is equal to 33,333. Well, it's easier to remember that. So it's just around $33,000. And again, this just means the total saved by all the consumers. Total savings of consumers, because these are the consumers that value the product higher than the price that you set it to, which was $1,075, because they would have, these are the people that would have paid it at a higher price. Over here you'll have probably one or two people wanting to buy close to 1,200. No one wants to buy it at 1,200 or above. etc. And again, this whole shaded area is roughly about 33k or 33,000. Anyways, that is all for today. Hopefully you learned from this pretty interesting video on how to apply the consumer surplus formula like I showed before. And again, it's just a area above the this price point right here that you're setting it to and below the demand curve. Anyways, all for today. Hopefully you learned. Like always, you can download these exact notes in the link below. And thanks for watching, and stay tuned for another Math Easy solution.